take you the less time on the session slides, and I will take you the system demo. So more on the system. Okay. So I'm sharing my screen. Hi, Anupama.
Hello Manoj, how are you?
All good. Thank you. Okay. So the contents of this agenda, this meeting is, so I'm going to take you through a Vim introduction, the roles defined in the Vim and the Vim workplace. So most of you already attended the UAT sessions and you are already know the system. So, but for the who is not attended the UAT session, so for their benefit, I'll just take the brief about the application in these slides. And again, I will explain the same in the system as well. Okay, so what is Vim? What is Vim? So Vim is vendor invoice management. So this is a part of invoice to pay automation. So where we are introducing two applications, vendor portal and the Vim. So when once vendor will submit an invoices via portal, so invoices will be routed to Vim, and in the respective person in the user department will take an action. So then that invoice will come to your for review and making the postings. Okay, what changes? So usually what will happen is, so in current system, you are receiving the hard copy of the invoices from vendor and you will be processing those invoices manually, and there is a lot of manual work is involved. So going forward, so we are providing an option to the vendor where vendor can submit the invoices in the portal digitally. So then those invoices will be moved to SAP. Okay, so the next one is, so we have for the interim period, there will be help desk is set up to address some of the invoices or some of the vendors to handle the soft copy, hard copy invoices to be converted into a soft copy. So where that is also one of channel for the invoices which you are going to receive. The second one, third one is invoices sent to respective point of contact in oil. So when you are receiving any invoices directly from the vendor, and so this is majorly applicable for the user department. So if you are IR processor, so if the vendor is directly sending an invoice to you, I mean to say Oil India, and bank will be intimating, in such cases, you have an option where you can upload those invoices via a standalone programs. That is a customized transactions for Oil India. You can use those programs. Okay. So LAV posting. So invoice will be processing based on the roles via open text. So as I mentioned, so we have three roles. So one is indexer, another one is AP processor, third one is approver. So indexer is the user department, AP processor is you, approver is the person who is going to release the block. Okay. So auto validation of the data against the master data. Once the invoice has been received, so it will validate the data. So how it will validate based on the extraction. So it will validate the data. So the user department will verify as a first step. So then it will come to you. So then auto update of the data and process the option to post an invoices via open text. So without entering any Myra or FB60 screen. So usually, so FB60 screen is no longer exist. For FI cases also, we are going to use Miro in transaction, right? So so what we have done is, so we have mapped your NPO cases or FI payments to Miro screen. So whereas you can receive any FI payment of invoices, so those invoices will be processed via Miro screen only. Okay, so invoices are always available with the document. So until the life of the document. Okay, so because that will be archived against that particular invoice copy. So BOE also can be uploaded via using custom transaction or the upload functionality. So even BOE invoices also for accounting entry purposes, you can use the Vim transaction to upload the bills or whatever BOE entries, custom transactions and all. So next one is posted blocked approval. So posted blocked approval means once you post an invoice, if it is a invoice is completely posted and it is blocked for payment release, which is R block. So what will happen? So system will automatically route the invoices to the respective authorized approver automatically. And once that person approves, the block will be released in the backend automatically. So then invoice will be ready for APP. So this is about a just brief introduction. Contents of this meet meeting is, so I will explain you some of the business rules, how you are going to handle and what are the business rules are uh, occurred for IP processor and how you need to clear those. So these are all the PO based business rules and these are all the NPO based business rules. So if you are processing a BOE case, then these are the business rules. So these are all nothing but exceptions. Okay. So once you receive an invoice from the user department created a ACS or the GRN. So what will happen is you just go ahead.
Manoj, sorry to interrupt. Manoj,
Yes.
can you use full term instead of using those short name and acronyms like BOE is that
The
yeah,
bill of
so that
exchange. Yeah.
all the people can understand?
Okay. So BOE is nothing but bill of exchange. Okay, sir. So I noted your point. Okay, so next, as a AP processor, what you will do is you will log into your SAP login pad, and once you log in, so there is a no changes in your current system or the handling of the invoices. So there will be a transactions which you are currently using, right? So Myro or MIR4, something like that. So now you are going to use this transaction called /n/opt/vim_wp. So this is your workplace transaction. So you can make a note of it. So this is the workplace transaction. Once you enter into a system, so you can use this transaction and you can go ahead and you can see how many invoices which is lying in my inbox. This is like a your workplace. Okay. So then what will happen? So there are some, once you execute the document, so there are some options in the system. So the options is called as a process option. So I will take you these process options in detail in the system. Okay. So then this is the toolbar. So which button indicates what? So what is the action I can take by clicking this button? So what is the use of this button? So I will share this document along with you guys. So but for now, so I'm skipping this. I will explain directly in the system. And for your reference, so you can, when you are feeling stuck, so what is this, you can just go back and refer this manual and it will be helpful for you. Okay, so but now I'm skipping the detailed explanation because I will show the explanation in the system itself. These are all the process option pane. So again I will explain in the system. So this is a toolbar. So when you are entering into the document, this is the toolbar. So okay, these are all the process exceptions. Okay, these are all the business rules we have set for AP processor, where you can see after 901. So the business exception is 419. So wherever you see the exception from 419, so which means that this is your action to clear the business rule. I mean to say, so if your business rule is red, which means you need to take some action. Okay, so if it is green, that means your part of action against that particular business rule is no longer required. Okay, so then what you can do is, so I will show you in the system. So how can you correct these errors? Okay, so these are very important errors, and so until unless you clear these errors, so invoice you will not able to post the invoice further. Okay, or you will not able to move the invoice further anymore. Okay, so that is why these business rules are very important and you need to know how to clear all these business rules, and I will explain you with in the system in detail. So this is how it look like. So if you see, all process options are green, sorry, process exceptions are green. So whenever you see red, that means your exception is occurred. Okay, so these are the data pan. So which means that, so whenever you are taking any action of against any invoice, so currently how we are doing in mirror screen, the same way you can able to see here how, but the thing is there is no park option here. I mean to say the user department will not park any document here, but they will update the data here and you can go ahead and post the invoice with the data they have saved, but still you have a free hand to correct the data which is received from the user department with each of the tabs. So basic data, line item, accounting, tax, other process and other data. So usually in processes, you will not be having any action to do. Okay, so in basic data, so what and all you need to check. So I will explain in the system. So again, these are all the very common thing. So I feel I can show in the system and I can explain. So that will be the better. Okay. So then this is the detail pan and all. So this is again, I will explain in the system itself. Okay. So here, so far we have understood about the system. So I will receive an invoice. I need to look into the business rules and I need to clear the business rules and so how I can refer to one person to another person. So for example, Poonam received an invoice, but Poonam want to send the invoice to Rahul. So what is how I can refer the invoices from one person to one person. So what you can do is you can use this refer option. Okay. So using this refer option, you can select the person to whom you can send it and you can just click on continue. So that person will receive the invoice in his inbox and he can take an further actions. Okay. So those are all I can again show you in the system directly. Okay. So once the invoice you have taken all the required actions. Okay. So please make sure that so you have got no errors and your last exception is 108 is triggered. So if you see here, so process PO invoice, which means that so you have processed all the invoices, all the business, all the exceptions in this particular document, and your invoice is ready for payment. So how do you know that my invoice is ready to pay? Which means process PO invoice exception is green, and if you see here, so the exception is process PO invoice. If you see this option here, which means that your invoice is ready for payment or posting. I correct it. So your invoice is ready for posting. Okay, so once you click on the post button, so that is a process exception, a process option. I will show you how you can click on the post button. So once you click the post button, again the data will which is available in the Vim screen, so will be passed to your mirror screen. So in the mirror screen, again you have a free hand to take any actions, whatever the actions you will take, or if you change, for example, so here you are removing any one of the tax component. Okay, so here IGST, you are going to remove the IGST here. Okay, and you are posting the invoice. So whatever the data you will post here, the same will be reflecting back to Vim screen. Okay, so that option we have. So then once the invoice is posted, what will happen is it will be go for block. So block release. So if you want to track an invoice, so how can I track an invoice? So you have an option that so that once you post the invoice, it will go to your my pending. So other than that, you have one more option that so you go to the transaction //opt/vim underscore va2, that is Vim analytics. This is something like so how you're tracking your invoices today in the Z bill track. Okay, so same way you can use this transaction and you have a multiple selection criterias to check the status of an invoice. Okay, so if you see here, you can see that the invoice is posted but awaiting for approval. So blocked for payment, and what is the current role is approver, and who is the current agent is Manoj. I mean to say who is currently responsible for releasing the block. So this is how you can track. Okay. And so these are all the some options where we can I will show in the system demo. Okay, so if you want to delete the document directly without returning an invoice, or if you are communicating your vendor in the outside and you want to delete this document, which means you want to obsolete this document in the system. So you have an option set to obsolete. So once you click on that set to obsolete, you need to provide the obsolete reason, and you need to provide the comments why the invoice is rejected or the obsoleted. So then you just click on save. So that document is obsoleted, and so you will never able to action the same DP again once the invoice is set to obsolete. Okay, so we have a change document type functionality. So if you are receiving any invoice by mistakenly FI payment as a PO, so you still have an option to convert the invoices to PO to NPO or non-PO here. NPO is nothing but a non-PO, which means your FI payments. So then
मनोज, ये डॉक्यूमेंट टाइप इज KS to KR, राइट? लाइक कि सर्विस के लिए डॉक्यूमेंट टाइप इज KS, फॉर मटेरियल इट्स KR. हेलो, मनोज, am I audible?
Some problem with our sound system.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, madam.
Sorry, so my system got disconnected. Okay, I'll reshare. Okay, so this is return to vendor option. So currently what you are doing is, so you are sending a invoice emails outside the box. So what you are doing now is like, so you just click on the option return to vendor. So we have a inbuilt option to return the invoices to the vendor, and so this invoice will be returned to vendor within the system itself. And this, once you return the invoice, so this invoice will no longer will be valid, and you cannot use this invoice.
Excuse
So
me,
this
Manoj.
invoice will be for
Excuse me,
outside.
सर.
Yes.
मनोज, अर्लियर
Yeah.
आपने बोला कि ये चेंज डॉक्यूमेंट टाइप नॉन PO टू PO कर सकते हैं. सिमिलर इट्स KS to KR, राइट? लाइक कि one document type is KS, that is for service, and KR for
Okay.
material.
Yes. No, this is
Am I right?
different. No, this is different, Poonam. So this is, you are completely changing from your KRKS to KJ.
हाँ. Okay, with KJ. Okay. ठीक है. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is the return to vendor functionality. So where you can return the invoice within the system itself. And so we have few predefined return reasons. So you can select the return reason. So whatever is applicable against that invoice, and you can return the invoice. And if you have an option to, or if you want to provide more information, so you still have an option to update the comments here. So in the comments to the vendor, so then what will happen is, the whatever the comments you will update, the same will be passed on to the vendor by clicking this send button. So again, I will show this in a system demo. Okay, so I will circulate this map.
Manoj, once that we return the invoice to vendor, then
Yes.
whether the entire process will start over again when vendor resubmits the invoice?
Yes, sir.
So he needs to again upload the invoice, then user department, they will create a live, then it will come to us. Like, is that the way?
Yes.
And मनोज, जो DP जो create होगा obsolete हो जाएगा?
हाँ.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so we have created a deck for how to clear the exceptions. So
Manoj,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
if SES is already created for that DP, so
Okay.
how it will be reverse?
So you
Or cancel?
so you will set that document into a non-acceptance status, right?
That is the invoice only, no?
That is invoice only.
Not the
So
SCS.
so yes. So why you are returning the invoice? So there will be some reasons returning the invoice, right?
If the
So
invoice has some reason,
hmm.
I sent back to the invoice to the vendor. But so what happened with the SES? Whether SES
So that
will be reversed automatically or it will be manually reversed by
By the
the
user department.
yeah. So that ACS needs to be reversed manually. So you can only reverse the invoice.
So in place to send the invoice to the vendor, we should send the invoice to the user department.
Huh.
So that
What you can do? So that also you can do. So you can refer the invoice back to the indexer. So you can give your comments to reverse the ACS and return the invoice back to vendor. So even user department is having an option to return the invoice within the system. So they will reverse the invoice, I mean to return the invoice, and they will revoke the ACS.
that's fine.
Yeah.
So okay.
Yeah. So if no other questions, so I can just take you to the system demo and I will show you how you receive an invoices. And once you receive an invoices, what is the action you need to take? Okay. Just let me know once you can able to see my screen. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So once you log in with your salary code and the password with in SAP GUI, so this is how the page look like. So from here you can navigate /n/opt/vim_WP. Okay. So when you are manually updating the transaction here, /n is mandatory. Okay. So but if you are adding this transaction into your favorites, /n is not mandatory. So if you see here, so when I am clicking this /opt/vim_WP, so I can able to execute the workplace. Okay. This is just a note. Okay. So as I mentioned, so I will explain some of the features in the system. So before I'm starting the complete demo, so this is the Vim workplace where you can see. So we have some options like show selection pane, show detail pane, switch work view, refresh. Okay. So show selection pane. So when you click on this, you can able to see some of the options here. My inbox, my pending, my completed. So my inbox, nothing but, so this is the invoice which is in your inbox and you need to take an action about that invoice. Okay. So that is your responsible or you are the responsible person to take further action. What is my pending? So I have posted an invoice. Invoice is awaiting for block release. Okay. So what will happen? This invoice will come and sit in your my pendings. Once the block is released and the invoice is ready for APP, so that invoice will go and sit in my completed. Okay. So this is about my inbox, my pending and my completed. So you still have an option. For example, you have received an invoice or you have received some information from the user department that some of the invoice or some of the document IDs. So everyone is already aware that we are not going to use the BTS and BTS is replacing with the document number. So the new document number called DP number, right? So that person giving you the DP number. So how can I search? Okay. So how can I search and I take an action? So you have an option here DP ID. So you can update the DP ID here. So for example, 1759, I will update the DP ID here. So then you can just click apply. So that particular DP ID will be filtered over here. So it's like a filtration where you can select the invoices specifically when you have the data. So if someone has to, if anyone is having any question, otherwise I will mute. Okay. So this is kind of a filtration. Okay. So then same like, so reference, the reference is invoice number. So this is the invoice number field where you can search with the invoice reference and the vendor number. So if you want to search against the vendor number, you can, vendor number is nothing but your SAP ID, vendor SAP ID. So this is 408145 and the date, due date. And so if you have a amount, exact amount, so you can just check what is the amount based on that also. But so there are few queries so which we received. So I have a SCS or I have a PO number. So how can I filter it? Okay, see here, this is the purchase document. Okay, so in this purchase document, you can just select this column and click on the filter button. Okay, so what will happen? It will ask you to set filter. Yes, click on the purchase document and click on OK. So what will happen? So whatever the purchase document you will update here, the same will be filtered. So I'll just show you one PO. Okay, so I'll click here. So then set filter. Okay, PO number. So it shows how many invoices against that PO is lying in your inbox. This is the search results. Okay, which is filtered. So then I have a SCS number. I don't have a PO number. So I want to search with the SCS number. So you still have that option. So where you can see this is the service entry sheet. OK, so the same way how we are filtered. So I will select one SCS here. OK, you select this column, click on filter, update the service entry sheet, click OK. So if you want to process this invoice against that particular SCS, so yes, you still have an option to filter it. So this is as like how you're creating a layout in your system in current SAP. So the same way you can able to set the layout according to your requirement. OK, so free for set layout. OK, so this is about filtration or selection of the document. So next one is show detail pane. What is show detail pane is nothing but, so wherever you see the invoice, you have received an invoice and you want to see what is the invoice I have received from the user department. And you have an option to check this by clicking this image option. Your invoice image will be opened here by clicking this line item. So if the SES is already created, system will try to populate the line items based on the DP number they have mapped it. So it's automatically populate the line items. And so if any history you want to check, OK, so click on the history. So here you can see what is the action they have taken. OK, so they have taken service entry sheet required. OK, so they have taken some actions on LD applicable. So then they have moved the invoice to AP department. Same like a comments. So if they have updated any comments, so please make a practice to check always the comment section. So that will help you to resolve many of the queries that sometimes what will happen. So user department will update the commits. You may not know that whether they update the comments or not, and you will be reissuing that invoice back to the user department. So for that, we will always recommend you to check on the comments tab. OK, so that will avoid so many confusions. So then who are the actual agents? For example, so if you are the agent against this invoice, so this invoice will come directly to your inbox, or if you are mapped as a group. OK, for example, PHQ. So there are 5 or 6 people in the accounts department. So if it is a group of people, so then it will show all the possible agents here. So this is about hide or the detail pane. OK, the next one is switch work with. For example, so in any one of your team member is on vacation. OK, so what will happen is, so you want to process the invoices, those invoices on urgent basis. But you have an option where you can click on the switch work view and click on the team view. OK, so once you click on the team view, so it will show you your colleagues invoices where you can take an action and you can make the payment for those invoices on urgent basis, or if that person is in a long vacation, so you can still use this option and you can handle the invoices until the your colleague returns to the work. OK, so this is the team view option. The next one is refresh. So we always recommend you to again make a practice of refresh, because if any invoice, okay, so you will clear the exceptions, you forgot to do something and you will come back. Sometimes this invoice will be on air, or I mean to say that, so some of the logic modules in the technically I can say that sometimes invoice will be on in the backend. Okay, so until unless you click on the refresh, so it will not come to your inbox again. OK, so for example, you have cleared all the exceptions and you missed to clear the one exception, but you have just came out of the document and you are searching for the document. That document is not available here. So what you need to do is, so whatever the action you will take, so even though you post an invoice, so once you come back to this screen, so this is a workplace, once you come back to this screen, please make a habit of refresh. OK, so this is nothing but just to confirm whether all the actions which I have, all the efforts which I have put against that document is OK or not. OK, so this is about some of the features. The next one is, so how I can execute. So this is the just the invoice which is received into your inbox from the user department. So how I need to go into the document and what action I need to take and how I can post an invoice. OK, that is very important, right? So now, before that, I will give you some hints here. So this is the execute button. So where you can see the round clock with a right tick bar, right tick bar mark. So this is the execute. So the next one is a document ID. Document ID is nothing but this is your DP number. So which is replacing the BTS number. Going forward, there will be no BTS, only the DP number will be available at all the time. So this number is auto generated by the system once vendor is submitted the invoice via portal or when you are creating some of the manual upload programs. OK, this is the reg ID. So you just ignore this number. So until unless so you are uploading the invoice by yourself. OK, so vendor number. So this is a SAP vendor number. So the name is the name of the vendor and the purchase documents against which purchase order or the work order. So this is invoice processed and you can able to see that the reference number. So this is the reference number, nothing but your invoice and the currency gross amount. So this is the amount which includes VAT. OK, or the tax. Document date is nothing but your invoice date. Posting date. So posting date is the date when you are posting an invoice and the due date. So here is the point you need to be noted here is, so we are training the user department to declare the due date of invoice by selecting the correct payment terms. OK, so whatever the payment terms they will select, the due date will be calculated based on that payment terms. OK, so you need to make sure that whether the user department provided payment terms are valid and the payment terms I can take further for payment. OK, so next exception. So what is the exception? So why this invoice in my inbox? OK, so this is the exception. So you need to take what further actions. OK, so here one more note for you is, so whatever the exceptions which is coming after, I mean from 419 to 108, so it's your action. So its system is still loading. Just give me a moment. OK, so if you are not aware of how many exceptions against me, how many exceptions against indexer, so how many exceptions against approver. OK, so whatever the exceptions which is falling from 419. OK, so if you see here, this is the AP processor, which means you need to take an action to process the invoice further. OK, so this is how the exception will be triggered. So if you see, this is the red, this is the red. So once user department confirms from here, so it will come to AP processor. So once the AP processor receives an invoice, so that person has has a responsibility to clear these exceptions in the system to post the invoice. Right. Next, who is the agent? Okay, so usually the current role will be AP processor and it will show who is the agent. Okay, so agent will be in your name. Right. So few other options. So you can still have an option to select the same filter criteria how we have did it for service entry and the PO. You still have an option. So if you are specifically processing the invoices with respect to civil, with respect to vehicle, with respect to welding or manpower, so you still have an option to select those invoices. Okay, so this is again a easy filter option. Okay, so if I will select civil, I can able to see how many invoices against civil I have received it. Okay, so if anything is there, so it will show you, otherwise it will show blank. So this is also some of the features which I wanted to explain about the system. Now, so now I will go inside the document.
Hello.
Any questions?
Hello, Manojji.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Tell me.
I just need to ask one thing that is it possible that we'll be getting the invoice as an AP processor with the exceptions of the indexer? As an indexer is having the exception and still he is able to process the, he's able to proceed with the uh, uh,
No,
preparation of
there,
SAS.
so there is only one scenario which I can explain you means. So for example, if you are returning the invoices to the indexer that so you need some information. Okay. So when invoice come to you with a AP processor exception and you are referring the invoices back to the indexer. So in such cases, so you will see AP processor exception, but the current role shows as an indexer. So in such cases only you can able to see this discrepancy, otherwise no.
As in, you are saying that as far as this, I can understand that you are saying that whenever I will be receiving as an AP processor, I will be receiving the bill, though so I will be receiving without any exception at the end of the indexer.
Correct. So whatever the exceptions till 901, so after clearing these 901, okay, so then only invoice will come to AP processor, otherwise it will not come to you.
Okay.
Okay, so,
That is
so they has to clear all the exceptions, so then only your sequence will start.
okay.
Hello, Manoj.
Yes,
Hello, Manoj.
Vidyut.
This is Jiddu here.
Yes.
Service is mandatory now. The self
Yes,
service.
sir. So these exceptions, wherever you see red, so that's mandatory. So without clearing those exceptions, they cannot move with the invoice further.
Actually, in the year I have not seen the reserve service. Without reserve service, how can you know that service is related to me or someone else? Reserve service.
So nature of bill. So that is why. So
Reserve service
when we so
welding, civil, this is mandatory.
correct,
How can I do? This is related to me or someone else.
correct. So that is what the exercise we are doing it video. So where when we are submitting a mapping, role mapping Excel sheet, right? So there you have updated. So for example, Rahul will do uh, civil cases. So Vanita ma'am will do vehicle cases. So when you are providing the role mapping, at that point in time, you need to explain that. So which my user will take what action or against what nature of an invoice. So we can map those invoices in the system. So that user, whenever the user department will select vehicle, so that will directly go to Vanita ma'am.
Okay, okay.
So it's just a mapping.
That means the user has to select the reserve service. User has to.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a user option. So they has to select the nature of bill, how they are going selecting the how they are selecting today in the BTS.
Yes, my second question is that if the user did not select the reserve service, what are the disturbance copy?
No, system will not recognize that what is the nature of bill. So it's a user discipline. So where they has to select the nature of bill.
ते एसक्यू सिलेक्ट करना मैंने करना ओके ये सिलेक्ट कर ली बोलना तो
So, so is it clear with this?
हाँ हाँ ओके
Okay, fine. Okay, so I'll just show you an invoice. Once you receive the invoice, how you can post it. Okay. So this is the invoice where the exceptions from the user department is cleared and came to you. So if you see here, the exceptions till 901 is cleared and one exception is got triggered, balance not zero, and this invoice coming in AP processor inbox. Okay. So before that, I will explain you a few options here. Again, how I explained earlier, show options. So these are all the process options. So where I told you that, so this will help you to uh, process the invoice further. Okay, so we call it as process options. I will explain each and every process option. So for now, I will park it. So then the hide a detail pane. So the same way how we are done it in the workplace. So this is the dashboard. So in the dashboard also you can able to so you can able to view the same options here. So image, history, and the comments. Okay. So if any comments is available, so still here also the same is available. And the comments. So what all the actions has been taken before it is coming to your inbox. Okay. So if you see here, so they have taken action. Wait for goods receipt is the exception which was triggered to them. So invalid PO they triggered. So document check triggered. So then it triggered wait for GRN. So then once they create the GRN, so it came to you asking for manual check needed or missing data information. Or if you are correcting the data, so then it will go to the next exception. Okay. So that's the history. And if you want to see the invoice image, so you can able to when you click here, so it will show the invoice image in the right hand side of your SAP. So this is the invoice image which is uploaded by the vendor. Okay. So then open comments. So if you want to put any comments against this document, so you can put the comments. Okay. And you need to click on save. Okay, so if any additional documents was attached by the user department against this invoice, so how can I verify? Because so this is the only invoice which is submitted by vendor, but user department queried with the vendor and they have got some supporting documents. Okay, so how I can get those supporting documents? So by clicking on this display image button. So once you click on, if any attachments are there, so it will show you the list of attachments. So if there is no attachment, so this will directly open the invoice image which is uploaded by the vendor. Okay, so next simulate rules. So this is very important for you. So where you can able to see the business rules. So once you click the simulate rules, so then you can able to see what is the business rules which is occurred against this invoice. So these are the two business exceptions triggered. So and you need to take further actions against these two. Okay, so then set to obsolete. So as I mentioned, I'm sorry. So as I mentioned, so you don't want to process this invoice further. However, in the meantime, you don't want to intimate the vendor also, or you have intimated the vendor outside your SAP system, and vendor is agreed that so okay, you can go ahead and delete my invoice in your system. Okay, so in such cases only, so you can delete this invoice. So I will repeat. So this option can be used only if you are already communicated with the vendor outside and you have a mutual agreement with the vendor that I can directly go ahead and delete the document. So then only you can able to use this option. OK. So then, so if any error messages at the time of posting, so it will show display messages how it is showing in the Miro screen, the same way you can able to see here. And help. So always we will be there to help you out. OK. So next, I'll take you through these tabs. OK. Data pans. So this data pans is nothing but your see looks similarly like how you are using your MIR7 screen. OK. So here the document is not parked, but this document is having the data. OK. So you need to check whether the vendor number is correct, company code is correct, and invoice number as per the invoice which is extracted and user department verified correctly or not. OK. Invoice date. So document date is you need to check whether the document date is correct or not. Document date is nothing but invoice date. Then the gross amount. So gross amount means the invoice amount which includes VAT. OK. So then the right VAT code. So this is your responsibility to select the right VAT code. OK. So then expense type and the requested email ID. So this will be automatically populated because in the backend, so we are uploading the data for the person who is going to release the block. So based on the hierarchy, so what we have set is, for example, this invoice is having 10K. OK, so if this invoice is 10K and the requester of this for this invoice is or the limit is applicable for this invoice is GK sir. So then what will happen is, so it will go to Saha sir. So Saha sir will receive the invoice. Once the invoice is posted, so Saha sir can go ahead and release the invoice. So this requester email ID is nothing but the person who is going to release the block based on the approval limit. OK, so then the PO number. So this PO number, so what will happen is when vendor is submitting an invoice, sometimes for the contract cases or the work order cases, vendor will submit invoice against the contract number. So but at the time of processing, user will change the PO number from contract to work order number. OK, so because SES can be created based on the work order number only, right? So that's why. So when you are receiving an invoice, so please make sure that you are receiving an invoice with the PO number or the work order number. So when you are receiving any invoices against the contract number, OK, as a AP processor. So I will repeat. So when you are receiving any invoices against the contract number, please ask your indexer or the user department to provide the correct work order number. So please do not post any invoices with reference to the contract number. OK, it will not allow you. However, so we recommend you to ask your user department to provide the correct work order number. OK. So the next one is the GST partner. So this is a GST partner.
Manoj,
So,
can you come again on this point, that work order number and contract number?
Yeah. So what will happen? So when vendor will submit an invoice for only service cases I am talking about. So vendor is allowed to submit invoices against the contract number via portal. OK, so when they will submit an invoice via portal against the contract number will be passed in the PO number field at the time of SES creation. OK, so we have instructed a user department that don't use a contract number, use the work order number. So then only you can able to create the SES. So they will update the work order number in this field. So that is 8 series. OK, so if they miss to update the work order number. OK, so when you're receiving an invoices with 6 series, that is your contract, right? So you please ask back to your indexer or the user department to provide the correct work order number to process this invoice.
So can you not put the validation there itself? So 6 series contract number they won't accept.
No, we cannot put it. So because we are accepting the invoices against the contract from the portal.
And sir, what will be the difference if we are
Yes, ma'am.
doing FI invoice, then what will be the difference?
FI invoice.
That means NPO. In case of NPO, there is no order number. Na? In case of NPO.
FI cases, no, for FI cases, this field will only not come, na. So there is no point in our PO.
Manoj.
Yeah.
Manoj.
Yes.
Udayan Talukder from Rajasthan Fields.
Hi, sir.
So actually, the main problem is we are receiving the invoices against the contracts, right?
Correct.
Now the thing is that now against the PO field, the contract number will be populated. Now it is the job of the indexer to change, as you have said, it is job of the indexer to correct, you can say replace the contract number with the PO number, with the service
Correct.
order number, right?
Correct.
But that is
Correct.
subject to human intervention, right? And many a times we have seen that user makes up such you can say mistakes.
Yeah.
So the thing
Sir,
is, why can't we make a validation in that?
sir, one thing I will tell you. So see, these are all the worst case scenarios I am explaining. So tomorrow, so you should not say that. So you haven't explained. So this is a worst case scenarios I am saying. See, how we have done is how the system we have built is. So when you are updating the contract number and you are trying to create a service entry sheet, because until unless you update the work order number here, you will not get the create service entry sheet option in the system.
Right.
Manoj, one more thing is the same one contract can have more than one work order. There may be multiple work order against one single contract. So how to address
Correct.
that one?
No, correct. So that is user department has to determine. So which work order number I have received this invoice. It's not your activity. So user department has to segregate. So I have 10 work orders against 10 work orders. I have received this invoice against this work order. So they has to update the work order number here.
No. Suppose vendor submits single invoice, and there may be multiple work order. Then.
So here they can update one contract, one work order number, and here they have an option to update the multiple, work order numbers.
So Manoj, second idea, you can say, why can't we, if we cannot put any validation in that, why can't we write a substitution rule? That is against this contract, this purchase order was created. So against the contract PO number, the purchase order number is substituted. Can we do that?
Sir, I will show here. I have one invoice with a contract number. Okay. Sir, if you see here, this invoice we have received against the contract. See, okay. So here they want to create a service entry sheet. Okay. So until unless, so they will update the correct work order number. Here they won't get the option of create service entry. This is the validation we have, even though so they are updating the contract number and trying to create a service entry sheet. So they cannot able to create the service entry sheet.
Then it is okay. Then it is okay. So the user department have to substitute with the PO number, or unless that is done, they are unable to create the service entry sheet, right?
Yes, and also if someone asks the question. Yeah, someone asked the question, if one invoice is having multiple work orders, so they can update any one work order here, and they have an option here to update the multiple work orders in the list. Okay. Sir, is that answered your question?
That is
Yes,
okay.
yes. Okay. And also, Manoj, can against one DP number, whether it is possible to raise 2 or 3 different SES under against same DP?
Same DP, yes, we tried it. So this is the requirement from the logistics team. So yeah, it is possible.
Okay,
So
okay.
but again, it's the same PO and you need to use the same DP number. I mean to say you have to come from that same document. Otherwise, system will not allow. It will allow.
Okay.
We have an option.
So what you are saying that in that case, if the vendor uploads 3 invoices at the same time,
Okay.
right? Suppose the vendor uploads the 3 invoices at the same time, and then you will get one DP ID.
No, we will get 3 DP IDs. Okay, but when
the
at the
same
time
time.
of
Okay.
So for example, sir, we have a validation in the system. So how system will do is, for example, I have received this invoice. Okay, so the invoice number is 227 T1 with the same number I have received with the same document with the same amount. Okay, so vendor submitted thrice. Okay, that's what your
Okay.
question, right?
Right.
Okay, so
No,
then
not same amount, different amounts. Suppose
different amount with the same
three
invoice.
invoices, right? Again, the same order. You can say for the month of January, February, March.
Okay.
Different amounts. It may be different amounts. It may be same amount also.
Okay.
So they are, you can say, pushing it through the portal. And the thing is that the user departments needs to create 3 different SES.
Okay.
Right. Now, what
Okay.
MK Tamuli's question was, can we do the, you can say, posting of the 3 SES through one LIB?
3 ACS one. No, because they are submitting a 3 invoices differently.
My question was not 3 defined SES against one LIB. My question was that 3 defined SES against one DP.
One DP. Yeah. Yeah. So your question, yes, sir, we have an option.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Sir, then sir, for your question.
So how is it possible? Suppose there are 3 invoices, and what Mr. Tamuli had said is that he needs to create 3 SES, right?
Sir,
Against one ID. One
okay.
DP ID.
So for one DP, so you have received an invoice for 3 expense types. Okay, so it's not that 3 different months and 3 different invoices. So his question is, I have received one invoice, but I need to create multiple SES.
Tamuli, was that your answer question?
Yeah, that was my question.
So
one
invoice split into 3 types.
Yeah, because in some contracts they have multiple work order, and some vendors they submit one single invoice against all against the particular contract having 3 defined service items, having 3 defined work order. It is possible, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So for your question, sir, Udayan sir. So when vendor submits the 3 invoices, okay, assume for the month of January, February, March. Okay, so they have submitted 3 invoices. So they will submit the invoices differently. I mean, one invoice for January, one invoice for March, one invoice for February. Assume that. So except invoice number, your amount is same. So everything is same. Okay. So what
in
system
that
will
case,
do?
there will be 3 ID, right? In that case, there will be 3 DP IDs.
3 DP IDs. Yes.
Right. In that case, it will be 3 DP IDs. Suppose they upload 3 invoices against one DP ID, then?
No, you need to reject.
Possible.
So we cannot process it.
Okay.
Okay. So then the GST partner. So here the GST partner is it will come from your vendor. So what is the vendor? So if you want to change the GST partner. So accordingly, you have an option to change the GST partner. So this GST number, so partner GST or the vendor GST and the receiver GST. So dear sir, so you raised the question on this. So now I can confirm that. So these two are coming from the invoice copy. So we are extracting these two fields. Okay, so these two will come from the invoice copy. So if the invoice is as per the GST norms and they are updating they are submitting invoices with a QR code. So we are reading the QR code of 64 digits, and so the system will automatically update the QR code here. So if it is readable format. Okay, so any questions so far?
No. Go on, please go on.
Okay. So then the line item. So at the time of invoice receipt. So if it is a GRM, so how we are doing it is, so in the initial stage of a UAT, we have faced some issues where your reference number field, for example, at the time of GRN creation, so our materials team use the invoice number as a delivery note. Okay, so we had some technical issues where okay, where system was not able to. Any questions?
Manoj, can you go back to the earlier screen where that GST and PAN numbers are appearing?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, is it a editable field, that GST and PAN number, GST registration number?
Yes, it is editable.
But
we have vendor master where PAN number and GST, TIN, etc. are defined. So it should be picked up from our database, and then.
Yes, sir. So it should pick up from your database, but for few of the vendors where the GST partner is not maintained. Okay. So, but those cases so we will extract it from the invoice image. So if assume that is, so invoice image is also not that clear. So you need to have an option to enter manually.
So you have deliberated on this point earlier?
Yes,
you have deliberated this point earlier.
okay, Manoj. Hello.
Hello.
Manoj, am I audible?
Yes, Poonam.
एक्चुअली अगर जीएसटी पार्टनर नहीं है, सिंपली हम जीएसटी रजिस्ट्रेशन नंबर को एडिट कर देंगे तो वो प्रोसेस करेगा। जीएसटी पार्टनर क्रिएट नहीं किया है वेंडर, पार्टनर वेंडर क्रिएट नहीं करने से।
So you can update the GST number here, GST partner number. So you are not created in the master data. So there are few cases, right? So where you are not creating the GST partner and you are paying into a different party, right? The GST. So in such cases, you need this option, right?
Okay, manually we can edit the GST registration number and nothing to do else.
Yes.
Okay.
But Manoj, actually, this should be, Kamuli is correct. It should be uneditable.
Sir, we can make it uneditable, but so before
it should come directly from the system. It should come directly from the system. But the system, you can say GST can be compared with the GST that is in the invoice that is coming from the open text. And if there is any changes, then you can say some warning message should come. But the thing is, it should be uneditable, because the thing is the user otherwise can enter anything over there.
Yeah, you are right, sir. So as of now, we have an option. So it will check from the extracted data against the data which is maintained in master data. So then it will trigger a message like, so missing or invalid GST registration number, vendor GST registration number. So we have this option, but the only concern now is like, so whether we can make it editable or uneditable. So that I take a note of your point. So I'll discuss this with Sushanta and we can finalize it. So we can still do after go live also.
Okay.
Hello, sir. Sir, whether this receiver GST registration number is editable or not?
It is editable, ma'am. So all these fields are editable.
Whether we can link this with the place of supply?
Place of supply, actually, so this place of supply, so we have some logics behind it. So how we are determining it. So based on your business place, plant, and also we're determining the place of supply from your PO number.
Okay.
Okay. So, okay, yeah. Okay. So next the line items. So if it is a GRN case and the material team use the delivery note of note as a in your invoice number as a delivery note. So in such cases, so this line item will be automatically populated. Okay, so there is no need of accounts person to populate it here. So earlier, so we had some issues, so we have overcome with that issue. So this one will match with should match with your invoice number. So I will show you the delivery note. So this is the delivery note. It should match with your invoice number and the reference field. Okay. So then it will automatically populate the line item value, and then you need to check the line item value what is updated in this by the system. So just to make sure that you are confident with the data which is proposed by the system. So we will always you to go ahead and check manually for a few days. So then the accounting tab. So I don't have an option to. Please bear with me. So system is. looks some issues with the SAP.
Oh,
Hello.
Hello.
Manoj?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Uh,
Yes, sir.
please carry on.
but Manoj, we are
Sir.
not able to see your screen.
Anupama, so there is some issue. So even I'm unable to connect to the SAP. So I'm checking with Kamal. Just give
Okay,
me some
okay,
time. Huh?
okay.
Manoj. Hello,
Yes, sir.
Manoj.
Yes, yes, sir.
Udayan Talukar here. I had
Sir.
spoken to with Susanta also.
Okay.
Why can't we do one thing? That is, whatever is been recorded, that is, whatever you can say kind of instruction that you are showing currently. Can
Yes.
you distribute
Yeah.
it by mail?
Sure, sure,
Can you,
sure, sir.
can you distribute by mail so that we can see it later on? Okay. And
Yeah.
see, this is a new system. Some teething problems will be there, right? Some teething
Yeah.
problems will be there, and it needs to be sorted out at the earliest. That's it.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Sir, some technical issues. So SAP is unable to open SAP. Just give me some time. So I'm working with a basis.
Okay, okay, no problems.
Then we can resume the session. Just give me 2 3 minutes.
Okay, okay.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, Manoj.
Then, sir. Okay, sorry. I think I have a very bad network. Yeah, I'm sharing my screen. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I was explaining under the line items. So yeah, your invoice number and the delivery note should match against that the GRN which is created. So then system will automatically propose the line item which is against that delivery note. Okay, so if they are creating multiple GR lines, so against the one delivery note, so system will propose as many lines they will create. So but one thing which we can so what we cannot do here is, so I can see in FHQ, so there are some GRNs. So for one GRN, so there will be multiple delivery nodes. So in such cases, so this auto proposal will fail. So you have to go to proposal. You need to propose the line items manually. So how you are going to propose? You click on this. Propose P1 number will be populated. Just click on adapt. Okay, so then click the or select the material line which you wanted to select. So then click on insert. Okay, if you see here, the line item which I have selected went up now. Okay, so this is how you manually select the line items. So if there is a failure of system proposing the line items automatically. Okay, so then the next step is GL. So this is again the same like mirror screen. So if you want to credit debit anything like that. So for any reason, if you want to do any credit debit, so you can still have an option to do the same thing, and so that will pass to your mirror screen. And next one is accounting. So here is some fields where you need to look in. So if your invoice is material, so the document type will be KR. So if your invoice type is a service, so your document type is KS. So just to verify whether the system picked the correct document type. So this is just for few days where until we get the confidence on the system. So we have tested multiple scenarios, and so we are okay with the results which is publishing by the system. But however, in production, so we will always recommend you to check the data and the payment terms. So this is what I was explaining that. So these payment terms, usually it will come from the user department from now. Okay, so even though it is come from the PO, so user department will having the authority to change the payment terms from here now. So once they will select the payment terms. So as of now, so we have only the two payment terms moving into the production, that is 001 and OL 18. So user department will come up with many payment terms according to their requirements. So then, so our ERP FICO team will update the payment terms accordingly. So based on that, the invoice due date will be calculated. And so there is a logic. So if your payments up to 2 lakh, so your payment method is N. So this is automatic. So I will repeat. So if your payment method is uh, N, so then it is your invoice is less than 2 lakh. Hello. 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 Presentation. The system issue వచ్చింది. నేను ప్రెజెంటేషన్లో స్క్రీన్ షేర్ చేస్తాను. Okay, so if your payment method is more than 2 lakh, so then the payment method is X. So sorry, your invoice is value is more than 2 lakh, so then the payment method is X. Automatically it will pick up based on the logic we have updated. But still you have a free hand here, so where you can go ahead and change the payment terms. Okay, so then business area will come automatically. So your text, is always your PO number and the so which is characters of PO and the PO number. Okay, so in case of SES, so whatever they will update in the short text, so that text will be available here. So okay, so that is the only difference between SES and the material cases. Okay, so for material cases or the PO cases, you can see the PO number. So for service cases, whatever the text they will update in the short text at the time of creation of SES, so that text is coming here. So assignment is again your PO number with and the plant. So this plant, so we are reading from your PO. Okay, so what is the plant? So based on the plant, so this invoice will be routed against to that department. Okay, so business place and section code. So we have inbuilt logic, so that will be automatically determined. Next one, the tax. So in the tax, so whatever the tax code you will update in the basic data, so the same will be updated here. So earlier we were giving CGST, IGST, and all, so which is not applicable for Oil India. So we have removed those three. And so you still have an option here where you can update the withholding tax data. So if you don't want to update it here, still you have an option to update in your Miro screen as it is. So you can clear all the data from here and you can do it there. So if you are comfortable there, so but we will recommend you to do it here. So because whatever the data you will update, so it will pass there the same. Okay, so or if you make the changes in Miro screen, the same data will coming and reflecting here, vice versa. Okay, so this is the withholding tax. So then process. So here you no need to take any action. So here if it is a duplicate invoices which is submitted. Okay, so here if it is a duplicate invoices which is submitted. Okay, so you will get two messages here: suspected duplicate, declare duplicate, and declare non-duplicate. So in such cases only, so you come to processes and check the duplicate records. Okay, so then other process. So in other data, so this is very important. So I will explain you. Because this is very important. So based on the invoice subtype or the nature of invoice, so this subtype will be determined. Okay, so if you see there are multiple subtypes here. Okay, so for spot team Digboy, so for freight, GRN, GM cases, GRN normal cases, GRN medicine cases, spot, so import cases, index Duliajan. Okay, so I have, so likewise, so we have so many invoice subtypes which system will automatically determine itself. Okay, so if it is a SCS, it will automatically determine the SCS. So if it is a SCS case, so then the nature of bill will be available. Okay, so the same way. So if it is a GR based normal invoice, so it is a GR based normal. So this is a automatic field. Okay. So then HSN or SAC code. So this HSN and SAC code, so it will come from the invoice image. Okay. So this is again not your duty. It's a user department. So you can check again it's the invoice, the HSN number updated on the invoice, which is populated here or not. Okay. So then they will update the HSN number here if it is not extracted. It's not your duty. So reference key 3. So we have a logic, inbuilt logic. So this will be automatically updated by the system. Okay, so what will happen? So we have a conditions against PO and non-PO and the WBS and the 7 and 8 series, 79 series PO. So based on that, so we have updated the logic. So system will determine the if the invoice again is 79 series, it will automatically determine as a capital. So likewise, we have a logic which is set in the system. So no longer manually typing of AP person to select revenue or capital. Okay. So next one is document check. So whenever you see this document check, which means user department is acknowledging to you that so they have verified all the data. So they have all the required supporting documents in their hand to make a payment of this invoice. So when you see this tick mark is there, which means that you can go ahead and make the posting. Okay, so this is just an acknowledgement which you are getting from the user department. So the next one is physical invoice received. This is again very important. So you receive an invoice from the user department. At that time, you will check whether the invoice is digitally signed or not. Okay. So whether the invoice is digitally signed, you will process the invoice it further. But the invoice is not digitally signed. But how you will ensure to process the invoice? Shall I process an invoice or not? Either you need to call back to your user department or the person who created ACS that he is having a hard copy or not, or you need to refer the invoice back to him saying that so I need some of the documentation or the hard copy of the invoice which is legally acceptable as an invoice to claim the GST. Okay, so in such cases, so we have given a training to the user department that so if you have the invoice which is received from the vendor, which is not digitally signed, however, so they are submitting an invoices via hard copy, so which is legally acceptable. So then they will tick this physical invoice received. Okay, so they will tick this. Once they will take this physically invoice received, so you will assume that the invoice which you are processing, so that legally acceptable document and you can directly go ahead and post the document. So there is no need of sending back the invoices to the user department asking for more information. Okay, so that is physical invoice received. So this is just your check. So which means whether they have checked or not. So if only for digitally signed, not digitally signed invoices. So next one is ER team review required. So this is applicable only for FHQ. So whereas, for example, we have a set of conditions maintained. So for vehicle cases or civil cases or welding cases, so invoices should go your department review. Okay, but other than that, so if you feel that any service cases which should go to the ER team, okay, so user department will select this. Okay, so once they will select the ER team required, so it will go to the ER team. Okay, so once the ER team reviews it, so then it will come to the AP department. Okay, so this is not again your part of an action. So this is indexer part of an action or the user department part of an action where so they are declaring that yes, so this is kind of a service case where this should go to the ER team required. Okay, so if this tick box is done, okay, so then you assume that so this invoice is this invoice went to your department and they have verified it. And also you can have an option in the history whether you can check whether the ER department is reviewed the invoice. Okay, so payment method supplement. So as I mentioned, so if it is less than 2 lakh, so the invoice will be the logic is N. If it is more than 2 lakh, the logic is X. So same like that. So we have updated the payment method supplement also. So this will also automatically come. So still, this is a free hand for you. So you can change the payment supplement according to your requirement. Okay. So if it is HDFC Bank Limited, so if you want to change it to any other bank or so however you want to make a changes, it still you can make a changes. Okay. So next one is LD applicable. So this LD applicable, for example, when you are receiving this invoice from the user department and LD applicable updated as yes. Okay, so they will update the number of days. Okay, so how many days LD is applicable? If it is 2 days. Okay, and also they will provide you the comments how many days you need to deduct the LD. Okay, So then what will happen is you use the current procedure how you are using for LD, the same is applicable. So there is no linkage from new system to the old system for LD cases. So LD cases is completely outside of the new scope. Okay, so you need to do how you are doing it today. So based on the information which you receive from the
Excuse me, Manoj.
Yes, yes.
ये पेमेंट मेथड सप्लीमेंट ड्रॉप डाउन नहीं है कि ओनली वी हैव टू एंटर मैन्युअली?
Yes, it is manually entered, so we are not giving the drop down.
Because there are certain payment methods, I think, drop down.
Okay, so you want a selection screen. So how, I mean, you want a selection screen, right? So for example, if I click here and if you give this F4 help, so then it will give the list of, okay. So if it is available in the current system, so if it is the same way, I can do it, Poonam. So otherwise it's a manual.
Okay.
And so these changes will be done only after the go live. So now we are not making any changes.
Okay.
Okay, I took your point, so I'll work on it. Okay, so this is about LD. So where is your LD is completely outside the system. So any questions about LD? Okay, so then other deduction. So if it is a other deduction is applicable, so user department will say yes. And also you still have an option where you can declare. So this for this invoice other deduction is applicable. So we have an option for you also where you can update other deduction is applicable 4,000 for example, and don't update anything in the child DP and update the deduction comment. So you can say that some shutdown happened for 2 days or work has not been completed properly. So you can have an option to create a other deduction, which means that when you're updating the data here, so you will be creating one another document and you will be posting this 4,000 as a credit memo. So that credit memo will be in internal credit memo. So that I will show the procedure how we are going to do. So the next one is retention amount. In the retention amount, so we have advised the user department if they has a provision. Okay, so I will repeat. So if they has a provision to, or if they have visibility to update the retention amount, so then only they will update. So for them, this is not a mandatory. So anyway, so finance department is still having the complete authority to make the retention. So you can decide how much amount or how much percentage of the amount which needs to be retained against that PO, and you can update the retention amount here. For example, 1,000 or 10,000, and the retention comments as per PO terms. Okay, so the comments are must. When you are updating the any data. Okay.
Manoj, if we retain, suppose we retain certain amount, so that a separate document number will be generated for the retention, or it will be the same number.
So when you are creating the retention, so here is the trick. So what we will do is, so you will create a new child DP. Okay, so with linkage with this document, the new document will be created, so called retention document. Okay, so there we will give an option to you to post the retention against the transaction what you call, right, ZFI underscore RET. The same transaction you go on, you can deduct the amount or you can hold the amount.
So we need to, there will be another step for holding making the retention.
Yes, another step. Yes.
मनोज,
Yes.
वन चाइल्ड डीपी में मतलब कि मल्टीपल रिटेंशन है तो सिंगल चाइल्ड डीपी रहेगा, मल्टीपल चाइल्ड डीपी बनाना पड़ेगा?
No, what you can
लाइक
do is
रिटेंशन पीपीसी रिटेंशन है, रिटेंशन एज पर पीओ है, दो रिटेंशन है, इन दैट केस
so you can you update the retention amount. For example, if you have a 3 retention, so you can update the amount of, for example, 30,000. Okay, so you can give the comments here: retention as PO, retention as per BG, okay, and retention as per contract. Okay, so then when you create a child DP, so there you have an option. So for one document, you will be create for one parent DP FI document, you are creating a 3 retentions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then you can select the same document and you can create as usual how we are doing it today.
Okay.
Hello, Manoj. Manoj. Hello,
Yes,
Manoj.
yes. Vidya.
Hey,
Yeah, Vidya.
Manoj, मतलब how many character मतलब can you put in the comment column? How many character maximum character?
So how many?
Character. How many number?
Oh, no, this is a free text. So here you can give the free text. How much you can do it. It's a free text.
हे मतलब word character means मतलब आपको मतलब what लिखे मतलब 100
Here there
words.
is no. So here there is no restriction. So that restriction is only for a Vidyut at the time of invoice upload. So here there is no restriction.
Manoj, I have a question over here. I have a
Yes,
question over here. That is this retention amount of 30,000 that you have mentioned over here. Suppose it, as some people have saying that there are 3 retentions. Now,
Yes,
while
sir.
creating you can say the other document, these 30,000 will be checked with the 30,000 that is been posted, or it is just a, you can say, just for the namesake we are putting the 30,000 rupees.
Sir, yes, you are right. So this is just a documentation purpose we are updating. So there is no validation. So what we are
Right.
doing is, the same value we are passing into that child DP. However, you are posting your retention outside of the document. So outside of the Vim by
So
using your own transaction.
basically by putting any amount over here, one child DP is created, and with the child DP, this amount validation is not there, right?
Yes. Yes.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Sir, could you please explain this other deduction and retention separately? Actually, it's creating confusion to me, sir.
Okay. So these other deductions, ma'am. So this is Vijay na?
Yes, Vijay.
Huh. So ma'am, we have discussed na last time. So when you have other deduction and the retention. So other deduction means, so it's apart from LD and the retention, still you want to deduct some amount from the party which is provided the services. Okay. So for example, you have given some target these many days for 10 days. Okay, 10 days the work is not completed. So they have completed the work for 12 days. They have completed the work in 12 days. And that 12 days they will charge. So, but you want to deduct those 2 days because there is no work has been done. Okay, so in such cases, you can apply this deduction.
Okay. Other deduction, no?
Okay, so it is apart from your LD and the retention.
Okay.
So retention, so this is the retention where you are documented that. So I will pay 70% first. So then I will pay 30% later on. So that is your retention, or you will release once the confirmation has been received, or the once the goods is received, or the supply something like that. So that is the main difference.
And then other reduction is the permanent reduction, and retention is the same thing as earlier it is a temporary retention, no?
Yeah. So this retention is as it is. How we are doing it today, it's as it is. But other deductions,
But
so
ZFI
this is
and the
applicable.
REP for this, or there is some other processes?
No. So for other deductions, so I think you might miss, ma'am. So we had a lot of discussion with the JVC team, even 2 weeks ago. So we had a discussion about this other deduction part. So this will be processed within the parent document. Okay, so we decided it. So when you are processing in any other
Hello, Manoj.
deductions, yeah. Punam, one second, I will explain.
Manoj.
1 second, I will explain to
Okay.
her. Okay.
Okay.
So when the other deduction is yes, okay, ma'am. So then there will be an exception for this. Okay. So where AP person has to check what is the other deduction which is applied. Okay, so then there is a requirement from JVC so that they don't want to post the other deduction. What is the deduction amount which they are going to deduct against the PO line item? But so currently you're using the GL tab to
Yes.
deduct those amounts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the final decision. What we have taken is if you don't want to process the other deduction against the PO, you go ahead and update the value, the amount you are going to deduct in the GL tab, and you can post. And we are giving the bypass option for that. Earlier there is no bypass option. So after the discussion with the JVC team, we are giving the bypass option.
Okay.
So yes, Poonam. Poonam, you have a question? So this is the bypass, ma'am.
हेलो
Yes, Poonam, you have a question?
हाँ सर, अभी आपने जो बताया था अदर अदर डिडक्शन, एलडी एंड रिटेंशन, तीनों
हाँ.
का सेपरेट डीपी नंबर रहेगा, अलग अलग चाइल्ड डीपी.
So for LD, no child DP.
ओके, एंड अदर डिडक्शन एंड रिटेंशन का टू चाइल्ड डीपी
Different.
रहेगा.
Two DPs, yes.
For Manoj,
Yes, sir.
why for LD there is no child DP?
Sir, LD is completely outside the transaction. So that the process is completely different from what we are saying. So, but at the time of design, so we decided that so we are not going to give any child DPs for LD.
So the thing is that while processing the document, you can say the tagging will not be there.
No tagging, yes.
In JRFI LD, there is a you can say the main document has to be posted first, and then the tagging has to be done outside the system. Another thing is that
there is no tagging at all, sir. So you cannot tag it. So whatever the document which you are posting outside, you cannot tag it back.
Now what we're doing, that is when the parent, you can say parent ID LIV is done, you can say against the I document this JDFI LD is passed. So that is not there. And second thing is there any chance that the main LIV is done but the child DP is not executed? Will there be any chance?
So main DP is posted. Yeah. So once you post the main DP, you cannot execute the child DP. Yeah. So before you are posting the main DP, you need to execute the child DP. So then you need to post the document. So how I can differentiate my retention document, my deduction document? So there is one small step. That is when your invoice is starting with 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So when your retention document is created,
Manoj, your screen is not visible.
it's not visible for all.
That is visible for me.
For FSQ, it is not visible. Oh, now
Sir,
visible.
I just okay, fine. Okay. So in the reference tab, so Udayan sir, what will happen is when we create the child DP for retention cases, so what we are doing is underscore RET will be created. Okay. So likewise for other deductions, we are passing underscore DD.
Okay.
Is the difference? How can we
my
differentiate?
question was while executing the LIV is executed, but the child DPs they are not executed. Then what will happen? Is there any validation or you can say message that the child DP is not executed? Do it,
Yes,
or is
yes,
there a
sir.
chance?
So if you see here, sir, so there is a pop-up message. So it will keep ask you until you create the DP retention DP. If you see, please create a retention DP. So we have put this validation. So when you put some value in the retention field here, okay. So this pop-up will trigger until you post the retention DP.
Okay.
Click whatever the action I wanted to take against this document after updating the retention DP, so this message will keep up because it is asking. So there is a tendency there we can forget it, right? So that is why we kept this option. And this is just a information. This is not a error.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So once you receive this information, you need to validate all the. So I will just explain the process exceptions. So then I will explain you the DR. So then I will post one document. So we are running out of time. So I will take very quickly. Okay. So from 419. So from 419, so missing or invalid GST partner. So if the GST partner field is blank, so this message will come. So missing vendor PAN number. So if you see here in the down, so there is a vendor PAN number. Okay. Okay, so this is the vendor PAN number. So this is a GST partner. So if this field is blank, it will show missing or missing vendor PAN number. So missing or invalid vendor GST registration number. So when the GST number automatically captured by the invoice from the invoice and the GST number available in your master data, which is not matching, so then this exception will trigger. So the same way the receiver GST location. So then invalid HSNR section code. So for this exception, so what it will read is whatever the HSN code updated in your PO line, okay, or the PO line which you are selected in the line item. Okay, so for example, you are selected one of the line item, okay, and the line item HSN number is 2710. In the other data tab, so when at the time of vendor submits an invoice, if it is something 27105, something like that, if it is more than 5 digits or 10 digits, it will validate against this HSN number. So this is the first line item HSN number. So I will repeat, first line HSN number from the invoice copy. Okay, so it will capture it here and it will validate from the line item. Okay, so if these two HSNs are mismatching, so then this exception will trigger. Okay, so you have an option to bypass this rule because so there might be a chances of wrong with us or there might be a chances of wrong with vendor. So because of that, so we have an option to bypass this one. Okay, so we have a bypass option. Once you bypass this, so this will be in white. So when you are bypassing this rule, you always give the comments. So then manual check needed or missing data for indexing line. So indexing line, so which means when you are creating a GRN, okay, for example, you are created a GRN for one quantity into 100 rupees. Okay, so your total value of the GRN line is 100 rupees, but you are trying to post an invoice for 150 rupees with the same quantity and the net price. So in such cases, exception. So system will check there is some mistake which is happened in the line item. So that is why it is asking manual check is needed against the line item or the message itself it will show manual check needed or missing data for the indexing lines. Okay, which means in that line there is some mistakes. Okay, so if you click here, there will be a message will be coming up in which line. So you have an issue. Hello, oh, okay. Okay, no worries. I will share the recording. Yeah, you can. Okay, no worries. No problem. Yeah. Hmm. Reports also I wanted to cover, so I don't know when I can cover. So no, I will not cover. So I'll set up one more session for reports. That is important. So yeah. Yeah, yeah. So so we report. Mm, okay. Definitely. Yeah. So this is about missing manual check needed or missing data for indexing lens. The next one is budget availability check. So we have a check, put in your budget availability. So whether the budget status for that particular PO is applicable or not. Okay, so in your PO, so you can see if it is yes or no, right? So if it is yes, so then it will check whether the budget is approved. So if it is completely applicable, yes, and is approved, so then this exception will not trigger. So if it is not approved, so there will this exception will trigger. And also this sometimes this will check against your cost center level also. So there is a cost centers level budget availability check also we have. So in such cases also it will be triggered. Okay,
Manoj,
so
this budget availability check, this is only at the AP processor end, or if it is available at the user end also?
sir, so sorry, it's my confusion. Okay, sir, what will happen is if the BG is invalid, okay, in
No,
the
no,
first
not BG. I
instance,
am talking about budget availability check.
so yeah,
That
this is the
validation
AP processor, AP.
not at user end, because while raising the SCS, there is no check for budget availability.
No, there is no check for them. So anyway, that check will come when they're releasing the
Manoj,
SCS.
there has to be there. It has to be there. While
Yes, at the
raising
time.
the SCS,
Yes.
raising the SCS, you can say that the budget availability check has to be there.
No. So it's
Because
as a
without the
standard
budget,
how they are doing it today.
without the budget, you can say you cannot post the SCS, right?
Yes, sir. That's what I'm saying. So at the time of SES creation, so they will be having this check, but through this system, they don't have a check. So that's what I'm trying to convey you.
Okay.
So ML81N, so that's check still there. Okay. So if again, so whatever I explained, so that is again for BG. So if the BG is approved, so this option is triggered. If the BG is not approved, so this exception will be triggered. And invalid tax info. So if you are updating the invalid tax codes or the tax information is incorrect, so then this exception will be occurred. So balance
Hello.
not zero.
Hello, Manoj. BG,
Yes, Poonam.
can you bypass BG validation?
No, we cannot bypass.
Because there are certain Zen PO MSME which we have to make the payment by deducting BG. So in that case, what should you do?
So if it is asking for a BG, so then the BG, what is the status of the BG, whether it is approved or pending?
Pending
Or
status.
so
Status
then
2
if
और
it is
इधर नोट मतलब कि BG सबमिट नहीं किया है.
then you cannot do.
There are
See,
certain cases in which BG is submitted through FD or pay in slip mode.
no. So the logic what we finalized here, until unless the status is equals to 06, so this exception will not be
Manoj, this is applicable for those cases where BG is submitted. Where BG is not at all submitted, then in
so
some
BG
cases
not.
there's
Sir,
in
BG
some
not
cases
well submitted, if it is applicable, so then also this exception will come, sir. So if it is pending also, it will come, sir. So only the approved BG cases only it will show as a pass.
no, Manoj, what happened in some GEM payment cases, even though vendor do not submit BG, we release the payment by deducting the BG amount.
Okay.
So is there any possibility of bypassing this validation?
Excuse me,
We
sir.
can give the bypass.
Excuse me, sir.
So we can give the bypass.
Excuse me, sir. I'm
But
Bhupen, sir.
I feel, yes, sir.
Hello.
And also in some cases, vendor instead of submitting BG, they provide say cash deposit or FD. Those are not recorded in ZFI BG program.
Okay. So, okay, fine. So let me check with Sushant. So Poonam, you can send me an email with those points. So I will discuss with Sushant on this.
Sure, sir.
Okay. So yeah, so if there is any discrepancy against the GST tax, so a GST CGST calculation, so this exception will trigger. So then tolerance exceeded. So in oil India, so there is no tolerance accepted against the PO. So if anyone wants to post an invoice more than the PO value, so this exception will be triggered. So invoice older than allowed. So this is nothing but the date of invoice submission from the date of invoice created. So if the invoice is more than 90 days, more than more than 120 days, something like that. So we can restrict here. So if the invoice is created before the current date, so then this exception will be triggered. So BG validation we discussed. So invoice processing on hold. For example, if you, sir, yes, sir.
Sorry to interrupt. In BG program, there is a checkbox for Miro validation. So for those BG where that Miro validation is tick mark, against those PO or contract, this posting is not possible if BG status is not 3 or 6. Suppose in ZFI BG we are maintaining certain BG for against certain contracts. So in the ZFI BG program, there is a validation tick mark for Miro validation. And where this Miro validation is ticked, there invoice processing is not possible unless the BG status is 3 or 6.
So because here all the invoices now we are going to process via Miro, right? So if it is yes, so then it will validate it.
Pardon?
Excuse me, I need to come in over here. Basically, this Miro validation, yes or no, basically that was a system of bypassing, basically. So since I think the BIM, I think they are using the same logic, right? They have not changed the logic as such.
Yes.
So in that case, whatever you can say bypass is mentioned in the ZFI BG program will also be applicable over here. Am I right?
Correct, sir.
Yes, it is Miro validation is not tick in ZFI BG, then BG should maybe bypass. Yes, this Miro validation why.
Yes. So what, sir, what is the check what we have updated here is, so first it will check the validity. So whether the BG is valid or not. So if it is valid, so then we will check whether it is Miro validation yes or no. So if it is yes, so then we will check what is the status, if it is released or not. So this is the logic we have put in the current system. I mean, Vim system.
बाईपास बाईपास के लिए नहीं ये वैलिडेशंस मैं दूसरा पूछ रही हूँ हेलो सर वेदर आई एम ऑडिबल
Yes.
Sir, as you said that there will be checkpoint for BG validity Miro, and what if the cases where BG is applicable, but it is not recorded in ZFI BG? How you will trigger that cases?
See, wherever the BG is recorded in this transaction, okay, so then only we are coming here and we are looking at, okay. So if there is no record in this report, so that will not be applicable. So there is a record for each and every transaction, right? So every PO or entry. So I will show you that.
Okay, sir.
Manoj, actually
Okay.
there is a problem
This
over
is a
here. Excuse me. When
yes,
this ZFI BC program was developed, okay, so at that point of time, in the purchase order, there was no nowhere that is whether it is PGs are required or not was ticked. Subsequently, they have another box. You can say where they mention it whether the BC is required for the contract or not.
Yes,
so
sir. So
are you
that's what
covering
I'm
both?
like.
Are you covering both the things? In whatever question was just asked now, right now, that is, suppose in a purchase in a purchase order or a contract, you can say, it was mentioned that the purchase BG is required. It was stick like that. But that particular BG was not received by the accounts department, and it was not entered in ZFI BG. So in the initial case, when it was,
so if you see, this is what you are saying, no? Performance security applicable, yes or no? This is the one, right?
Right.
Okay. See, here there is no BG applicable. So which means if I read from here, okay, so here it is not maintained. However, the data which is maintained in BG tracker. Okay, so if I read this PO, so then I will check whether the BG applicable or not. So if it is applicable, so then I will read the validity, then I will check the validation is required or not. So then I will check the status.
What I'm saying is that there may be cases wherein it was not populated in BG, that is in PO, but actually it was required.
So then how I can know, sir?
And then that is it. That is it. You need to see both the but I'm not sure about it. There may be variances. You can say in the PO that was not stated as needed, but actually it was needed, and it was duly received, and in JFI APC it was recorded.
So then, yeah, I got the thing. So, but for me,
I'm not sure about it. No, I'm not sure about it. But let's Sushant and Parag, you can say if any discrepancies are there between the two systems in MM and FI, then they need to correct it.
Yeah, I can see the discrepancy here, sir. So that see here it is nothing. It's a blank. So but there is a record for this BG.
Exactly.
So then
they need to.
So then I cannot read it. So I can read if it is applicable. So then I will check the corresponding entry against this PO. So then I will check the required fields.
So for the time being, you can do one thing. You can go to the relevant PO, then see whether it is applicable or not. If it is not applicable, but some data of it is recorded in JFI BG, then actually it is applicable.
I got your point, but I need to check from the ABAP end, sir.
Okay, fine.
Okay. Okay, so then yeah, so invoice processing on hold. So if this invoice, if you want to process any invoices, I mean, so if you want to process any invoices, accepting more supporting documents. So otherwise, I cannot process any invoice. So what will happen is, you can keep the invoice on hold. You can raise a query. So we are enabling the vendor portal for all the AP users, the user department. So where you can have a communication with your vendors for more information. So in such cases, you can use this option. So where you can find this option is invoice processing on hold. So you go to the other data tab. Okay, so in other data tab, so when you are holding any invoices for any reason, you can just select this checkbox. So that's why I wasn't explained this earlier. So now I might be very clear for you that. So if you want any more information from the vendor or any other department where you are holding this invoice, okay, so from the day you are holding this invoice, your clock stops, and so the day when you untick this one, so your clock turns on. Okay. So this is the one exception. So invoice on hold. So next, check for deduction. So if any data which is available in other deduction, so I will enable if the so I wanted to, so this is the check. So if anyone wanted to post an invoice without creating a child DP. So for retention cases, we will pop up that message. For other deduction cases, so we have an exception. Until unless they will create a child DP, this exception will not be removed, or they have an option to bypass it. So when they are going to bypass it, they need to give the comments why they are bypassing it. So this is the validation, sir. So Udayan sir?
Yeah.
Yeah, so for other deductions, for retention, I have showed you that pop-up will come for other deductions. So this is the exception where we have created until unless they will create a child DP. So this exception will not be cleared. So if they want to bypass this, so they have a bypass option, but they need to give the comments why they are bypassing it.
Okay. Fine. Okay.
Yeah. So then, so if you are an IR processor and if you are receiving any invoices directly to you, so this is the exception which will be triggered for only IR based cases. So bank intimation received. So you have an option to bypass once the bank intimation is received. So after the bank intimation received, so then you can able to post the invoice. So process PO invoice is nothing but invoice is ready for payment. Okay. So then once the invoice is posted, invoice will be sent to block release approval. So then the exception will be posted approval required. This is about the simulation rules, all the data. Okay, so now, so I will take another 10 minutes to explain these process options, and I think I need one more session, so I cannot cover today. So I think I need one more session. So I will cover one invoice posting complete, one child DP of retention, one child DP of other deduction, and DR report. So yeah, so and reporting stuff. So these 5 items, so I need one
One
session.
more thing is subsequent debit. You need to cover subsequent debit also.
Sir, subsequent debit. So this is just an event transaction type change. Okay. So when you receive an invoice, if you want to post an invoice against a subsequent debits, you can use the subsequent debit here. So it's just normal how you are posting in MIRO. The same way it will work.
When are we having the second meeting?
Sir, so I will check for the schedule. So probably, so if time permits, I will send for tomorrow or day after tomorrow.
To make it tomorrow, because we are available only tomorrow afternoon. Then we have a meeting actually on Saturday and Sunday. We'll be off station.
Oh, okay.
Hello, Manoj.
Yes, Vidyut.
Is it possible to process the invoice twice? One is invoice and second time is with the topical debit? Same invoice?
No, your voice is not audible for me.
Hey, Manoj. Hey, am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes. It's very low, but yeah, I can try to understand. Yes, Vidyut.
My question is that is it possible to post the same invoice twice? One is invoice, second time is using the subsequent debit.
Yes. So it's again depends on the role mapping. So if you are posting, so your question is if I post and I can release it, right?
No. My question is that sometimes we have to post the same invoice twice because of the GST issue, GST rates.
Okay.
So is it possible to post the
Huh.
invoice twice?
So it is possible, but the thing is you need to manually create a DP with you. So once you post it and block release, so then you don't have any other option that you need to create a new DP. So but if it is not block release, so then you have an option to delete and reprocess the same DP.
Once if I posted it, then I have to create a manual DP to
Huh.
process the same invoice under subsequent debit. Is it?
Why you want to create a subsequent debit? Because you are reversing that invoice, na?
No. Subsequent is because of the GST issue. So, sometimes what happens is saying in one exchange they are different items for the different GST rates. The GST rates. For some reason, they we have to create the invoice twice. Post the invoice twice.
Okay, fine. So tomorrow I will come to finance department, so we'll discuss on this with you.
Okay. You tell me some scenario where it's subsequent calls.
Sure.
So Manoj, why don't you come to Jodhpur? Come over.
Sir, it's not my decision, sir. So if my company sends, I will definitely come.
Yeah, you're invited. Actually, in every station, you need to have some people during the live run, go live run, because many teething problems will come up during the time. Acha, another issue that I need to, you can say, ask you whether, suppose one invoice is processed and subsequently it needs to be reversed, what will happen?